Hey, Yvonne here, succession planning expert, executive coach, and the creator of Succession app. Today I'm going to tell you a success story on board succession planning. This story involves an organization that I was on the board of. I think it's a really good story. It's a very good board succession planning success story. And we started thinking about board succession planning in 2008. Now, if you think back to 2008, I was a consultant back then, as I am now, and board succession planning was not talked about. But the organization that I was with, the CEO and I kind of looked around the room and noticed that there was a little graying of the board. And so we thought we should probably do a little bit of board succession planning. So I was the chair of the board development committee. We had a committee that was in charge of board governance. And so we took on the task of creating a board succession policy. So as the committee met, we came up with a variety of ideas. And what we decided on, what we all agreed on in the end, is that we were going to have all current board members grandfathered in, and we were going to have 5 3-year terms or age 75 as our limits for board members to be on the board. Now, we didn't have term limits at the time, so and it's a long, 5 3-year terms, 15 years is longer than the average out there. It's more like 12 is kind of the average, but we were trying to be a little bit generous. 75 is kind of an average age of retirement is fairly old as well, but we were again trying to be generous. So we had put the policy together, and this is a volunteer board, this is a volunteer committee, so it took several meetings over the course of about 6 to 9 months for us to come up with this policy. So I think it was early 2010, and we presented at a board meeting. I presented, because I was the chair of the committee, the policy draft to the board. And the board members who were not on the committee just were like, no way! And they were like, kind of yelling at me, like, no, that doesn't seem fair. Are you sure we should do it that way? We've never had problems in the past. Why would we do this? And it just so happens that none of the other board members who were on the committee with me were coming to my defense. It was like me against the other board members. So I decided we probably should take it back to the committee and try to come up with something new. We could have passed it, it probably would have passed, but I wanted to make sure that people were feeling good. And, as a consultant, my other clients were kind of starting to talk about board succession planning as well. So I thought there must be a different solution. So I met with each of the non-committee board members to see what their objections were, and then came up with an idea and proposed it to the committee, who then agreed on it. We brought it back to the board at another meeting, and I just said, let's try this. And it was a process where we had already figured out which competencies we wanted on our board. We had been doing that for years. What we were missing is, when are people anticipating leaving the board? And that's what we just said, let's just try this process where you anticipate when you're leaving, and let's just see if we're going to have any issues in the near future, or in the future, probably within the next 5 to 7 years. And they agreed, the board agreed that they would do that. What we found, so we were really happy, first of all, that it finally passed, because it took a lot of work over a couple of years to get to that point. What we found is that 6 individuals were planning to leave within a 4-year period. That's a lot of turnover. And we only had probably maybe 2 years before that turnover was going to start happening. And then after that, there was going to be a couple of turnovers, 1 per year for the next couple of years after that. Then what happened right after this is that one of the board members who said he would be with us, a longer period of time, had to leave the board. So it wasn't even one of those people who were leaving, the 6 people leaving in the 4-year period. It was a different person who had to leave. So that's a lot of turnover. And the board members were realizing, wow, we really did need to do this. We really did need to start planning for this board succession process and this board turnover. If we look at it 10 years later, our average age was 55 and our tenure was about 10 to 11 years. So we did decrease the average age of our board members. Now, was that our ultimate goal? Not really. Our ultimate goal was really to have a process so we could anticipate when turnover was going to occur, and we could have new board members with the required skills ready to go to fill those positions. So why is this story a success story? Well, first of all, we were able to see that we're going to have all this turnover, and we were able to ask people for some flexibility in leaving the organization. So we didn't have more than 1 person leaving in a year, which is really good. The board knew which competencies to look for, because as they were leaving, as board members were leaving, we were also checking the level of their competency and which competencies we needed to look for in new board members. The task was assigned to a committee, and it wasn't the full board, or it wasn't one member of the board trying to find new board members or trying to figure out what kind of board members to look for. The board created associate director positions, and associate directors, if you're not familiar with the term, are usually people who you would like potentially to be on your board, but you're going to try them out, and they're trying out the position as a board. So they're not voting board members, but they go through the same vetting as other board members, and then they attend board meetings, and they get to learn a little bit about other board members and about the decisions that they're going to be making on the board. So they really get to learn about the board. And so when they step onto the board, it's easier for them because they understand the positions, the decisions they have to make. And the board also created emeritus director roles. And the emeritus director is someone who has retired from the board. There are many, many ways you can create an emeritus director program. But in our situation, it was an honor to be an emeritus director. And you would have had to serve on the board for at least 10 years and be on the executive committee and be nominated by 3 board members. And so we created that program as well so that older board members felt comfortable in leaving the board. So I really do feel like it's successful. The organization has continued to use the process over the years very successfully. If you're interested in knowing how to set up a board succession plan, click below to download a PDF. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below to get information on succession planning, what you need to know.